Hey folks, this is Kelani. Let's have a look at another spec going into Battle for Azeroth, because the pre-patch might be as close as just 4 weeks away. If we have a 6-week pre-patch like we did for Legion, then we're less than a month away from moving into Battle for Azeroth territory. That's kind of scary, so let's see how Retribution Paladins are changing going forward into the next expansion. There's a handful of changes here which make quite a big difference, and a whole bunch of talents have been swapped around and moved, so that's going to change how you play as well. Let's kick things off with the baseline abilities. If you haven't played a Retribution Paladin or haven't played one in a while, they have a unique resource called Holy Power. I say it's a unique resource, but it's actually more or less combo points. You can have a max of 5, but most abilities will only spend up to 3 at a time. We have some abilities to generate Holy Power and others to spend it to deal a large amount of damage. Our first ability which generates Holy Power is Crusader Strike, a simple powerful melee strike which deals damage and generates 1 Holy Power. Crusader Strike has 2 charges max and has a short recharge timer. The secondary Holy Power generator we have access to is Blade of Justice, a powerful attack with a 12-yard range, which generates 2 Holy Power and has a longer cooldown. The last ability that generates Holy Power is actually Judgment, which is the first change we have. Judgment now also generates a Holy Power, which is a nice little bonus. Instead of increasing the damage of all Holy Power spending abilities for the next 8 seconds, Judgment only boosts the damage of the next Holy Power spender ability you use. This might seem like a bad thing at first, but removing that damage window frees up your rotation considerably so you can play far more fluidly and be more flexible. So what about Holy Power spenders? Our single target spender is Templar's Verdict, which costs 3 Holy Power and deals a good amount of damage to a single target. We also have an AoE option, Divine Storm. This also costs 3 Holy Power, but deals damage to all nearby enemies instead of just your current target. So Templar's Verdict for single target, Divine Storm for AoE. Then we have our DPS cooldown, Avenging Wrath. 2-minute cooldown which increases your damage, healing and critical strike chance by 20% for 20 seconds. A pretty powerful cooldown in its own right, but you can boost its power through a talent or 2 later on. Those abilities still make up the main rotation of Retribution. Generate Holy Power with Crusader Strike, Blade of Justice and Judgment, then spend it with Templar's Verdict or Divine Storm depending on what you're fighting, but we have a few passives to add into the mix as well. First up is your Mastery, Hand of Light. This increases all of your holy damage, which is pretty much all of your damage, dependent on how much mastery you have. We also have Retribution, which is a hotly debated ability because it's a bit of an oddball. When any party or raid member dies within 40 yards, you gain 20% bonus damage and take 30% less damage for 10 seconds. That sounds really cool and awesome, a damage boost if an ally falls in battle. Except if Blizzard ever balanced around Retribution and expecting you to have this awesome buff a few times per fight, our damage would actually be lower if we didn't get the Retribution buff. But that's a discussion for the forums. Let's move on to our defensive and utility abilities. We only have a handful of defensive abilities, but a lot of the utility stuff can be used defensively too. So depending on your situation, you might want to help yourself or help an ally. Our first defensive ability is Shield of Vengeance. This provides you with a large absorption shield which explodes when it is depleted or when it expires, dealing damage to everything around you. If things get too bad and Shield of Vengeance won't cover it, we also have Divine Shield. Become immune to all damage for 8 seconds, just enough time to get a few heals off or Hearthstone out of trouble. Then we have Lay on Hands, which is a bit of a blurred line between defensive and utility, but you can heal any ally for your max health. So you can save yourself or save the healer that pulled aggro. Then we also have our blessings. Retribution gets some special blessings. We have Greater Blessing of Kings, which can be cast on one player and provides them with a small shield every 6 seconds. Very useful to have on tanks or squishy DPS, or even your healer if they're having a few troubles. Then we have Greater Blessing of Wisdom, which can be cast on one player and provides them with 1% of their max mana every 10 seconds. Your healers will probably end up fighting over this one. We also have Blessing of Protection, which makes any ally immune to all physical damage for 10 seconds, and we have Blessing of Freedom, which removes and grants immunity to snares and roots. Hammer of Justice is a single target 6-second stun on a 1-minute cooldown. Rebuke is a melee interrupt which you will hopefully make very good use of. We have a movement speed increase in Divine Steed. Hop on your steed and ride for 3 seconds. If you want to slow someone down, we have Hand of Hindrance, a hefty 70% reduction for 10 seconds to let you get away or to catch up. There's also Hand of Reckoning to taunt, Flash of Light to keep yourself healthy, and Cleanse Toxins to remove poison and disease debuffs. Quite a few of those abilities allow you to support your group in a variety of ways, which I actually love. Paladins are probably the closest you'll get to a support outside of a healing spec. Let's check out what else we have in the talent section. On our first row we have Zeal, which has changed from Legion. Every time you use Judgment, your next 3 auto attacks occur 50% faster and deal extra holy damage. This could be very powerful with anything that triggers from auto attacks. We also have Righteous Verdict. Templar's Verdict increases the damage of your next Templar's Verdict by 15% for 6 seconds, which you can chain constantly providing you can throw out a Templar's Verdict every 6 seconds. This is actually a legendary effect from Legion. I'm glad this one is sticking around. The last talent on this row is Execution Sentence, which has also changed. Now it deals damage instantly and increases the holy damage the target takes from you by 20% for 12 seconds. This does cost 3 holy power and has a 30-second cooldown, but that gives you another interesting way to play and manage your holy power. We also have Fires of Justice, which reduces the cooldown of your Crusader Strike and gives it a chance to reduce the cost of your next Holy Power spender by 1. Blade of Wrath causes your auto attacks to have a chance to reset Blade of Justice, and we actually get Hammer of Wrath. Hurl a hammer of fantastic, glorious justice at your enemy to deal damage and generate 1 Holy Power. You can only use Hammer of Wrath against targets below 20% health, or while Avenging Wrath is active. Fist of Justice reduces the cooldown of Hammer of Justice by 2 seconds for every Holy Power you spend. Repentance gives you another option for crowd control. You can lock out a humanoid, demon, undead, dragonkin, or giant for 1 minute as long as they don't take damage. We also have Blinding Light, which disorients all enemies around you for 6 seconds. Divine Judgment causes each enemy hit by an ability that consumes holy power to increase the damage of your next judgment by 15%, which can stack up to 15 times. Consecration is a talent once again, which creates an AoE on the floor which deals damage over 6 seconds. Consecration has a 20-second cooldown and now also generates a holy power. And then we have Wake of Ashes. Our beloved artifact ability has become a talent, but it hasn't really changed. Deal damage to everything in front of you, generate 5 holy power, and stun any demons or undead for 5 seconds. We'll have to see how the numbers work out to see if we'll be running with Wake of Ashes again or not. Cavalier gives Divine Steed an extra charge. Unbreakable Spirit reduces the cooldown of Divine Shield, Shield of Vengeance, and Lay on Hands by 30%, and Eye for Eye reduces the physical damage you take by 35% and deals damage to any melee attackers for 10 seconds. Selfless Healer is a new talent. Judgment reduces the cast time of your next Flash of Light by 33% and increases its healing to other targets by 10%. This can stack up to 3 times to make your Flash of Light instant. Just to Cause Vengeance is an interesting talent. You can spend 5 holy power to deal about the same damage as a Templar's Verdict, but this ability heals you for the damage you deal, and its damage is increased against stunned targets, very useful for soloing content. Word of Glory costs 3 holy power, has a 1 minute recharge and a max charge of 2, heal a friendly target and up to 2 nearby targets for 2. Hopefully that isn't a final value. On our last row we have Divine Purpose. Your abilities that consume holy power have a 20% chance to make your next holy power consumer be free. We have Crusade still, which changes how Avenging Wrath works. You gain haste and damage for every holy power you spend, up to a max of 10 stacks. This was the default choice in Legion, but might not be anymore, because we also have Inquisition. This is one of the most divisive talents Ret has ever had, and it's back. Spend 1 to 3 holy power to gain 8% increased damage and haste for 15 seconds per holy power spent. So you can buff yourself every 45 seconds, and 8% damage and haste is actually a pretty big deal. Haste is going to be very important because it reduces the cooldown of all of your abilities, and you can keep Inquisition up indefinitely. So some tough choices on that last row potentially. Retribution hasn't changed that much on the face of things. 1 or 2 changes make the spec flow better and free up the few restrictions you had during Legion, but quite a few talents will be the key going into Battle for Azeroth. Some talents have been replaced, others have been completely reworked, and a lot have shifted around. So our choices are going to be quite different when compared to Legion. We're also going to feel the loss of our artifact pretty heavily, so some good and some bad changes there. I'm still having a lot of fun with Ret though. I played it quite a bit during Tomb of Sargeras in Legion, and got frustrated with the damage window and how big of a role Crusade played in your overall damage. I'm hoping Retribution can stand on its own without Crusade, but I guess we'll have to see how the numbers pan out. I feel like the problems I had with Ret during Legion have all been addressed, so I'm really excited to play it again in Battle for Azeroth. It seems fairly strong right now, though its AoE is a little lacking due to the removal of the old Zeal and Divine Hammer, but that kinda goes for most specs these days. AoE damage has been reined in quite significantly. Though saying all of this, no numbers tuning has been done as far as I'm aware, so it could be either really, really powerful or really, really bad by the time Battle for Azeroth comes out. Let's hope the balancing team does a great job this time around. But that's all for Retribution Paladins, what's changed and how I feel about the spec overall. What do you think of the Ret changes so far? What else would you like to see changed for Paladins? Leave all your thoughts in the comments section below. A big thank you to all of our supporters over on Patreon. It feels like a new face shows up there every week. You guys are truly awesome. If you want to hop on that train, you can find a link in the description below. Remember to leave a like just below the video before you leave, and if you want to see more, make sure to subscribe. But apart from that, thanks for watching folks, good luck and have fun, and as always I will see you next time.